challenges of this current economic environment, and we're aware of that, and that's why we want to do our level best to work with folks as much as we can to be as flexible as we possibly can within the constraints of our rules and the way we are empowered to find solutions that are fair and equitable for all sides.
And I'm not sure who this question should be directed to, but it's just a blank statement. Why is it that in Nassau County the dock builders do not know the current codes, and why are they not held responsible for building docks out of code or out of compliance?
Interesting response about the dock builders. We have found that there are actually some contractors that may actually know a little bit more than folks in this room, and there are some that maybe did not. And those are sort of the special cases that we've sort of set aside where we have pretty clear, convincing evidence that folks kind of knew what the rules required and just sort of decided for whatever reason to ignore them. And so we've sort of put that handful of cases in a special category. For the rest, and why that hasn't reached saturation within the community, I don't know. But let me just finish my response and say this. We have actually set up a pretty effective program of workshops with the Florida Marine Contractors Association that has been very, very effective, I think very helpful. These are free and open to the public meetings that we hold every quarter or so. And if you like, we can put you on our mailing list, and we're certainly going to see if we can reach more of the marine contractors up here in Nassau County so that they have that awareness.
And my last question here would be, why does the state try to set all the rules and regulations the same for all the aquatic preserves around the state, when obviously this is completely different from most?
That's a great question. I would just simply try to answer your question and say, for the purpose of consistency and fairness and equity, and maybe ease of management. That's what the way the rules were set up initially, and it's sort of a one-size-fits-all approach, and we're taking a look at that now.
You do realize we do not have clear water or grassy bottoms?
We are aware of that.
And the counterpart to the organisms we were talking about a while ago is most of our pylons and docks have crustaceans on them, which support marine
And let me just share with you in the conference call that I had on August the 28th with Secretary Sullivan of DEP. He indicated that because of the black water that is in this aquatic preserve, there really is, the primary reason for this to be an aquatic preserve is aesthetic and is not biological. And that's not to say that there's no biological value, but he did share with me that it was his understanding that the primary reason why the Lockton Creek area is within the aquatic preserve designation is for aesthetics.
I thought it said the regulation was
There are multiple reasons why you would have an aquatic preserve designation.
Wasn't it designated biological?
When you look at some of the websites, it references biological. I'm simply sharing with you what the Secretary, what his conversation was with me.
Okay, I would also like to recognize Nassau County Commissioner Walter Wright, who joined us during the discussion. And I would also ask that any of the panel members who would like to either address an issue or address a question, please just signal to me so I'll bring the microphone over to you. Any question or concern?
I'm Michael Leary. I'm a 60-year-old native and lifetime resident of the island in Nassau County. Currently have the privilege of residing on the banks of the Bell River in Chester, and I'm also a privilege to have a dock there. And I want to accentuate this privilege that I have to have a dock there. My question is primarily would be first to Representative Atkins. I read in the paper a couple of weeks ago that you said a balance is needed between ecological and property rights concerns. You just mentioned to me that the primary concerns are not biological or ecological. That's puzzling regarding your comments. The primary question is, what is the private property concerns you have?
First of all, the comments that you read in the newspaper took place prior to my conversation with Secretary Saul on August the 28th, where he was conveying to me, from his perspective, the primary reason why Lofton Creek is an aquatic preserve. All right, so understand this is a story that is evolving over time. Okay. Now, the comment about the property rights goes back to the other gentleman's question about property values. And so, understanding that if you are required to take your dock back to a 160 square foot terminal platform area, that to me is going to have a significant impact on your property, therefore your property rights. So that's the reason for that comment.
Respectfully, Representative Atkins, all these docks are on public property. That's a privilege that we're all granted. I personally own a dock also, and it's a privilege that I have. I'm frankly a bit concerned that your focus is on private property rights, and this really is a public property issue, a valuable resource that belongs to all the people of the state of Florida, particularly those of us in this county. And the previous questioner addressed this, is how this has gone on so long. It's my understanding from my own experience that we are required to go through a permitting process. How could we be in a 99% noncompliance rate on Lofton Creek through a permitting process? I understand those that preceded the permitting process, which are years and years ago. But you tell me that more than 50% or better of these docks were built after 2000. It would seem to me, Representative, that your concern would be the agency whose purview is supervising the permits and this ecological reserve, and they were in a 90% noncompliance situation.
Well, understand that Lofton Creek has been an aquatic preserve for 40 years, since 1969. And so this is the very first time that a compliance evaluation has been conducted. And so when you've got property owners that, number one, were not informed that this was an aquatic preserve. Number two, there's been confusion and chaos with the agency. And absolutely, I've got concerns with the agency because the evaluation has not been done for 40 years, because we've got such inconsistencies. But understand, I am elected not to represent state agencies. I am elected to represent constituents. And so when I have constituents calling my office, and this problem has been allowed to grow for the last 40 years,